Get ready to get real. Okay, welcome everyone. I'm so grateful you are spending this hour with me. So, tonight is not just another leadership webinar, it's an opportunity to reconnect with the part of you that we know that is there and made for more. We need more joy, more purpose, more ease, and more alignment in your leadership. So, let's begin. All right. And I'm still letting people in too, so apologies for any delays here. So, what we're going to learn tonight, we are going to learn why burnout is so pervasive among healthcare leaders and in other sectors as well. Oh, sorry. And if you could just mute coming in. And why it has less to do with our workload and more to do with our identity. We'll learn the neuroscience behind the stress, the hidden identity patterns that create burnout, and the four real leadership shifts that change how you show up. It's also a guide that I will share with you through NLP identity and exercise that people would say really is transformative. So, does this sound familiar to you? You're high performing, but quietly burned out. You're carrying emotional load for everyone. You feel the pressure to be everything to everyone, and you're leading from perfectionism or people pleasing, losing yourself in the role and feeling responsible for everything. And for a lot of us, we feel successful on paper, but exhausted in real life. So we're feeling so like we're carrying beyond our capacity. And this is where you will know that if any of these things resonate with you, you're exactly in the right place. So, healthcare leaders, our challenges are definitely, and please, if any of these are not listed, I would love to hear it in the chat. Staffing challenges, who is not suffering through that with our workforce shortage, administrative burdens, and my demon, charts, having to do charts. A lot of time we do not have time during our practice and caring for patients, and our charts are something we have to do at home. My own husband in medicine is up late doing charts all the time. Insurance frustrations. I don't know if anyone who has a great relationship with insurances. The pressures that we're seeing from patients on scheduling, like do you have later hours? Do you have earlier hours? Do you have weekend hours? And just really that imbalance in our work life. Definitely medical misinformation that we're seeing now, not only in the media, but in the news, and having to deal with uh, uh, those things that are just misinformed from in the public, and our hours and emergency call that many of us have to take. So this is what we're facing, but the data supports it. Burnout is impacting us at alarming rates. Dentistry and medicine, both nearly half, are experiencing and reporting burnout. Now, this emotional exhaustion is more common among female dentists, which is primarily everyone who's here. I'm about to let in a male dentist. So, yes, emotional exhaustion that's more common among female dentists, younger dentists, and practice owners managing staffing shortages. And in medicine, the same thing. So we need to understand that burnout is not a personal failure, it's a systemic pattern impacting leaders at every level and in every sector. Oh, with the delay in moving the slides. So just one moment as it gets through there. All right. Okay, so leadership, it's just not sustainable when we're feeling overcommitted, you're constantly interrupted, you're performing instead of leading, and you're always exhausted. And also when that self-doubt comes into play. These patterns are not personal failures. They're symptoms of a leadership model that was never designed specifically for health leaders and healers, and specifically women. Okay. So let me just help with this. Sorry for the advancing there. We'll get through it. But why is this important to me? It's important to me because growing up as a mixed child, multicultural Black, my mother was African American and my father was Persian. There was a time there that I didn't feel like I fully belonged. And if you see here, coming up in the early late 60s, early 70s, there was the Iranian hostage crises. And even at the young age of 6 years old, I could hear the adults speak and I could see what was in the news media, and images like this that flashed on the screen made me quickly learn that I had to, I mean, being Iranian was dangerous and people feared them. So I learned early on that I had to hide parts of myself to stay safe. I had to stay accepted and unproblematic. Now that was my dad's side. On my mother's side, being raised as an African American young child in the Midwest, this is a picture of my mother holding the doll, the white doll, and my grandmother with her. And both my mother and my grandmother raised me. And in that time, the story that had to be shared is one that echoes not only today for me, but so many other Black women, is that we have to give twice as much to get noticed, to get accepted, and to be successful. And also, I bring up, as my mom was raised in segregation and didn't see representation of her not only in toys and dolls, but also in other professions. So, with that, I realized that I was always seeking belonging. I was always trying to be validated externally. And that then played a role as I grew up, not only in me personally, but also in my leadership style. So, maybe this sounds like you, as if you're in the dental medical field, especially dentists, where we are so perfectionist in having to make sure what the work we do is measured in millimeters if it's going to success or fail. But I overachieved. I fixed everything for everyone. I was there for everyone. I made myself agreeable and became a people pleaser with almost no boundaries. And all of that led to who I was today. And that story that I shared with you about having to do twice as much, that just was seen in everything I did from my childhood. Figure skating, but I just didn't figure skate for fun. My mom made sure that I was up, and when she had two young kids, they were like 18 months, she was taking me to the figure skating rink at 5 in the morning before school so I could get a practice in, then go to school, then pick me up, then take me back to the skating rink and traveled with me for competitions. Then, of course, going through high school, I was top of my class, a class president for 3 years of high school, and then getting to the college of my choice and striving further. Mom always made sure that I heard in her voice, it was always in my head that you will need to be a doctor, because her marriage did not work out. And that struggle of being a single parent, she wanted to make sure that I would always be financially independent. So, yes, if I wasn't going to go to medicine, I went into dentistry. And then it wasn't just being the dental student. I had to be the class president all 4 years. And this cycle continued of overachieving, overstriving, and yes, becoming very successful, but at a cost. And that cost is that the body keeps score. So in 2013, I was diagnosed with cancer and everything collapsed. It was my rock bottom moment, not when I was diagnosed, but when I was actually looking forward to my bilateral mastectomy, because I thought, maybe this is the only way I could get a break. And that moment changed everything. I knew I had to do something different. And that early wound of not belonging is what I created what I call like this hiding identity. I didn't know it then, but I know it now. And it sounded like I had to be agreeable, make myself smaller to belong, and don't take up space. And how that shows up in leadership is one that avoids someone who avoids conflict, maybe having those difficult conversations with your team members, over adapting and blending in instead of being seen. And that just continued in the way that I was hiding my identity, eventually became one that just was exhausting. And that was the result. And I put those pictures up there because when I was looking back at all the milestones of my life, high school graduation, 1990, dental school graduation, and this picture is when I was getting new photos for my website, for my practice. And each time I looked and my hair was straightened. There it was that I was trying all those years of what I was hearing, the microaggressions, maybe just try to hide and mask who I was. And that carried over in my leadership with my team. Because when I am not fully leading from an authentic place, then how is my team expected to do the same? So, this is the seed of identity based burnout. So, what is identity based burnout? It's a sense of worth that is tied to being perfect, agreeable, responsible for everyone, and the strong one that carried the weight of others. And from that, this is how we know that burnout isn't just emotional, it's neurological. So, the majority of my colleagues here want to talk science. Ready? So, let's get into the science of burnout. What is burnout really? So, is a system, our burnout is really not just emotional, right? It is a brain and body state that is created by this chronic stress of trying to be what others expect you to be, and this overextension, being everything for everyone, the nurturer, the caregiver, and this emotional overload. And what happens is our stress system is stuck on. So if you look at, just letting somebody, sorry. So if you look at this reward system, it becomes tied to the productivity. Our prefrontal cortex that is goes offline. And I'll go into this a little bit more specific in the next slide. But our prefrontal cortex goes offline, which gives us results in poor boundaries, brain fog, irritability. So you know how that feels if you're really feeling burned out. Like you can't remember things. It's like every little thing just drives you crazy. And that came up to me when I was not leading at my best. And I was pulled to the side, and my partner said, the staff is really thinking that you're just not yourself. And one of those reasons was that picture, what I shared when I had diagnosed with breast cancer. I came back to work, not giving myself the 6 to 8 weeks to heal, but I came back in 25 days. And so, yes, I was irritable, I was resentful, and all those things happen when you're in this chronic stress state. And then the amygdala that is in charge of regulating your emotions, and the fear and urgency and people pleasing starts to get heightened. It takes over. So our identity becomes performance based. Like I must keep everything happy and care and make everyone happy and carry everything. So what is this then? Are we addicted to stress? In a sense, we are. There's this cortisol and dopamine loop. And so this is how it works and how high achievers like us can get stuck in this loop. So when we are chronically stressed, cortisol rises. And when that cortisol rises, then we need to fix the problem. So our brain releases the neurochemical of dopamine that hits. And that dopamine hits when we actually fix the problem. Like it's a temporary fix. And stress as far as I have this emergency call and I need to get them in, and you're all stressed about it. And then you get it in, the case is taken care of, and then the dopamine is released. But what happens is in neuroscience is that the brain pairs the stress with relief. And so therefore you become addicted to this productivity. Have you ever been in a situation, and I will speak for myself, where I I didn't have anything to do and I kept moving around and just keeping myself busy. And my husband actually said, like, Layla, can you just sit down and like not do anything? And see, for me, and it was hard. It actually was hard. And I realized that the rest, it felt unsafe because I wasn't doing something. I didn't have that stress going on. So the burnout starts to become your normal. And when that happens, this is what your brain is. It's a burnout brain. And I am really proud of this cute little diagram I made. Isn't that a cute? We don't want to look like that. We don't want our brain to look like that. We want our brain to be happy. So your brain is on fire when you're burned out. And it shows up as exhaustion, brain irritability, brain fog, numbness. Have you ever gotten home after a busy day in the practice or in your office, in your organization, and it was such a stressful day that you just numbed out and start scrolling through social media, or you're just checking emails that you just checked 2 minutes ago, and you're just refreshing and refreshing? You also have this hyper responsibility where you take on the responsibility of others without taking care of yourself. And you have this emotional depletion. And what results is a loss of joy. So, this is where it is, and this is what can happen. And this is important to me because the only way that I was able to get out of this cycle and this chronic burnout was actually seek out help. I sought out a leadership and life coach who was really helpful, and got some techniques and resources through NLP. So what NLP is basically it helps to you to notice your thinking so that you can rewire patterns in your brain for better leadership, communication, and emotional regulation. So it's broken down in three: neuro, linguistics, and programming. So neuro is how your mind processes information, your thoughts, your emotions, your internal patterns. Linguistic is the language you use both internally, like that voice in your head, and externally that shapes your experience. And then the programming is just the unconscious patterns or habits, if you will, that will run really automatically in the background. And now this is contributes to implicit bias as well, and biases, extrinsic biases. But it's important that I felt that what helped me is that NLP helped me notice how I was thinking. And with that, I was able to kind of rewire those patterns that helped me with better leadership and definitely in what I was going to be able to achieve. So, if you will, I wanted to, and if you're feel free not to if you don't, but this is such a short exercise that I thought would be a great way to introduce you to reframing this leader identity, this one that has to be chronically stressed, chronically helping others, being the people pleaser, being the one who takes on everyone's emotion, and reframe it to the leader that you really want to be and the strong, confident one you want to step into. So feel free. What I'll ask you to do, and when we do this, this is going to help you to step out of that outdated identity that led you to this burnout. And as I said, just really stepping into the leader that you want to be, and you'll notice this shift. So it's just very short. We'll have you close your eyes just for a moment. Now, I want you to imagine the version of yourself standing a few feet in front of you. Just close your eyes and imagine you. This is the version of you that carries this perfectionism. Maybe it's a people pleasing, the over responsibility. Put in whatever feelings that you carry that you know that is holding you back. So see them. See yourself, that version of yourself. Notice the posture, notice their energy, notice how they're holding all this weight on their shoulders. Now, I want you to notice that this is a part of you, but not all of you as you see it sitting there. Now, what we're going to try to do is to help disassociate yourself from that by now imagining this picture, looking at this picture. I have one person in the waiting room. And I want you to then dim the colors around that picture that you have, that old version of you. Like just feel like if it's really bright, more dim, get it to like a black or white. Really just if there's noise in the picture, you're hearing the sound of, being in the practice, turn down the volume, any thoughts that you imagine having, just make that image smaller and smaller and smaller, like it's moving a bit further and further away. Now just remember, you're not rejecting them. You're simply reducing the intensity of a pattern that no longer serves you. This leadership pattern that has left you exhausted and burned out, and what we don't want that can cause stress on the body and your health. Now, we're going to create this empowered leader identity that we're all seeking to have. I want you to imagine a second version of you standing to the right of that picture. This is you who leads with respect, with empathy, that doesn't take away from yourself or self-sacrificing, one who leads with authenticity and has the strength and foresight to build a legacy that will serve on far beyond your career. Now notice their posture: confident, grounded, balanced, calm. The energy is very calm, very decisive. You know the decisions you need to make. And their boundaries are clear and compassionate. Now, on that picture, I would love for you to turn up the brightness, make the colors vivid, make them bright, make any sounds in the background really loud, turn it up, turn the sounds of your inner voice, just steady, wise, confident, aligned, authentic. Now, that's the new identity that we want to anchor into. And when you're ready, we're all sitting here, just physically lean forward, or you can take a breath. That symbolizes stepping into that leader. Step inside their perspective. Feel how it feels to make your own decisions without, source crowding all the information to make decisions, how they feel when they communicate, how they feel to hold boundaries with their team and their patients, but hold those boundaries with love and not guilt. Now, I would love for you to notice how different it feels when your nervous system understands that shift. So after the webinar, you can imagine leaving that old self behind and entering this. And if you have a situation where perfectionism and people pleasing and over responsibility normally shows up, notice how you're going to handle it now as empowered version of yourself. See the ease, see the clarity, and see the confidence. And when you're ready, open your eyes, bring in this identity with you. So I hope you enjoy doing that exercise, and you can think of different scenarios and work with that. But that's a little bit of how the NLP really helped me. So now that we have discussed the identity and the neuroscience of burnout, I want to share my proprietary real leadership framework that guides you back to yourself by providing some behavioral shifts. And this framework guides you on how you have to lead yourself first before your teams and your organizations that you serve. All right, so we're going to break down the pillars here, and this may have gotten cut off just a little bit, but with the respect, yes, we have respect, empathy, authenticity, and legacy. So respect is really honoring our boundaries and protecting our energy. Like, we have a sign in the bathroom at work that says, "Don't be an energy vampire." Being aware, that self-awareness of taking care of yourself, because you have to respect yourself first, your boundaries, your needs, and your values. And then the empathy is that is connected and compassionate without self-sacrificing, not depleting yourself when you're showing empathy. And then authenticity, leading unmasked. I think this is always great analogy when we're talking to healthcare leaders, is leading from your truth instead of performance, leading, knowing that inner source and who you are, and how you can show up that way to have more joy. And legacy, really sustainable impact, making these decisions that are aligned with the future that you're building, and and definitely not the burnout that you're surviving. So it's really about respecting your energy and leading with empathy without absorbing anyone else's emotions, being authentic, not performing, and just creating that legacy that goes on, lasts longer beyond your career and for the lives for generations to come. Okay, so keeping aware of the time, I'm going to break through each of our shifts. Our first shift is respect. Again, that starts with you protecting your boundaries, your time, and capacity. So how does that look in healthcare? I can give an example of a time when I wasn't on call, and yet a parent had my number and called after hours because of not even a true dental emergency, and wanted me to handle this call with her. And it took me away from what I was doing with my family, and I actually missed my daughter's last race of her swim meet because I was handling that. And instead of having those boundaries, so respecting your time and your boundaries, and when you know you're at capacity, because when you have that respect, looks like you're having clear boundaries. You have you're making intentional decisions, you're honoring your emotional and physical and mental capacity, and you're just really aligning your choices with your values. Because for the longest, I felt like saying no was being disrespectful. I didn't want to hurt people's feelings. What would they think of me? And so that was where that people pleasing was coming. But now I understand that really setting those boundaries is they're not barriers, is they're really there for clarity. So I wanted to share with my healthcare colleagues here that when we lack boundaries, this is how it can show up in your practice. And if you have any others that you want to share, I would love to see it in the chat as well. So you discount your fees. Have you done that? You are always running behind. I was notorious, and maybe still am a little bit, of running behind because, yes, I wanted to. And I'm a pediatric dentist. For those of you I didn't even really introduce, that I've been a pediatric dentist for over 25 years. And the parents, and that's what's so exhausting, right? It's like you're treating the kids, but you're also having to talk to the parents, like, oh, how was your vacation? Oh, I love your handbag, this, that, and the other. So I'm always running behind. You're behind on your charts. You take complete responsibility for a failed restoration or medical procedure when there's so many factors that play a role on the success of a restoration. You answer clinical questions outside the practice. You let your team dictate the way you practice. Like they want to come in later, but if you can't see the patients who need sedation because they have to be NPO without any food or drink, and so that can be a blurred boundary there. And feeling guilty about saying no to a colleague for a request, just like I had that guilt about saying a no to a patient. And you put your patient's needs above your own. So, does this resonate with anybody? Can I see any thumbs up or like that? Let's see, is anything coming in the chat here? Can see the chat. Great, great, great. Well, I will check that afterwards. Let's see. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful. All right. Great, great, great. Thank you, Dr. King. Awesome, awesome. Okay, so let me give you some helpful resources and tools. Okay,
Baby.
so ways to say no without using the word.
I'm so sorry you missed wrestling. Ooh, you have pants on?
Oh, and Adrian, thank you, thank you. So, okay, so sorry that doesn't work for me, is one.
Hold on.
And
Let me go potty, okay?
I can help Adrian mute your mic, or if anyone else is there to help you.
You want to go, don't you? It smells like you pooped in here. What's this?
Adrian. Okay, just see if I can do it there. Okay, sorry, everybody. So I'm not taking any more responsibilities. I can help, but not right now. That's like kind of kicking the can. Let's schedule a time. So you don't have to feel bad about it. You just can't do it right at this moment. I love to, but I can't. That's not something I can do. I appreciate the offer, but I have to decline. That is out of my scope of expertise. I love saying that one now. And I'm not able to accommodate that request. I'm sorry, but I have other commitments, and I'll be able to answer that when I'm back in the office. So make sure that you guys try to do that one. Okay. Any other ones, please put in the chat so everyone can gain from that. Because it is hard. And I would say the majority of us here being women, it is very difficult because we can be judged unfairly by, if we're saying no, that we're just being really, too harsh and not understanding. It is different. We talk about it all the time, and how our teams kind of treat a female practice owner different than they would a male practice owner. So that's for another webinar. All right. So just know, if you don't prioritize your life, someone else will. This is the author, Greg McKeown from Essentialism, and I'll have the book resource that I will say is a must read, Essentialism. But yes, prioritize your life or somebody else will. Okay, let's go to the second. Empathy with boundaries look like connection without abandoning yourself, compassion with capacity, just really empathy that doesn't drain you. And it strength and when you do that and you have boundaries around your empathy, it strengthens your teams and your culture and your communication. And like I was telling you earlier, it is hard as women because we can be punished for if we're praised for being empathetic and we're punished if we're not, and it drains on us. And this leads to compassion fatigue and emotional depletion. So just make sure that you are taking yourself and not letting you get to that state of emotional exhaustion, because that empathy it includes you. And when you lead with balanced empathy, you feel lighter and your team feels safer, and that's what's going to help the culture of your practice. Okay, moving on to authenticity. It looks like and I will put this first, me being a woman of color, Black women definitely experience this code switching or wearing a mask. And that is basically, what I felt like I had to do when I first started practicing. I was trying to blend in or change my hair and the way we speak. And that over time, that starts to chip away of who you are. So lead who you are, not who you think you should be. No more hiding, just really having clear communication, and really align with purpose. So you're not performing anymore. Your leadership becomes just more authentic and more magnetic. I wanted to put this slide in really quick too, because I don't know if any of you have heard any of these, but I have had it. And these microaggressions and the unconscious bias really does chip away at us. And this is why I feel it's important that we come together and know that we're not alone, but have a confidence in those boundaries set that you can use your voice to speak against it. When you hear things about, well, your name is too hard to pronounce, can I call you XYZ? Are you forced to wear that, or a Muslim wearing a hijab? Where are you really from? How many times did I get that? No one knew what I was. And so when I said I'm from Kansas City, they were like, no, like, where are you really from? You speak English so well. And this for minority or students from underrepresented backgrounds. When you hear colleagues talking about how hard it was for them to get into medical school or to dental school, or their mentee didn't get into medical or dental school, and you know that they're saying that in front of you and say things like you had it easy getting into dental school, like we were just given a pass through our DEI, and all the stuff that's being come out is really so hard, knowing that we have had to work so hard and we are just as confident, just as capable and qualified to be there. And that does eat away those microaggressions. And like I shared, just the hair is not professional. Seems like a tough case for a woman. Have you ever had a patient that thought you can extract that second molar? So, I just wanted to share that because, I've been through it and I understand. And we need to speak our truth, compassion, with intention, with strength, and give yourself compassion by doing so. And so, call it out. Share your feelings. Don't hold it in, because when you hold that in, that's that stress that starts to continue on, and that cortisol level starts kicking in, and then we go into that cortisol dopamine loop that we talked about before. And then the fourth shift is legacy. So I broke this up into what legacy problems when we dilute our legacy and our long-term impact. This is by doing everything ourselves, not delegating and operating in this heightened reactive mode and trying to do everything ourselves, not really developing successors. And I'll share a little bit next as I talk about the nonprofit. The impact I want to make is what I want to make across the nation. So I know that I cannot be able to do everything myself. So it's important that I'm developing successors so that the impact and the legacy will continue long after me. So if there's something that is on your heart that you want to build a legacy from your practice, make sure that you're setting it up for success in the long term. So you don't want to neglect your own growth there. So that is what I want to share, because these habits will keep you in a stuck survival mode, and instead of that visionary leadership that we know you all have. So the solutions: delegate, 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 delegate for development, for funding, for growing, not for relief of your time solely, but just for the growth of the organization. Block weekly legacy time for strategy. So in my week, I have an hour a week that I think about vision, strategic vision, partnerships that I'm looking to build to help with the growth of my organization. You want to build systems that will help you reduce that workload, and identify mentors and future leaders that can help you get to that point where you want to be. So you have to, and like you're doing right now, being here, is invest in your own growth and your own evolution. And I will tell you that I went from this state of burnout and got the help that I needed with a guide who helped me see how these shifts were going to help me. And when I look back, this is what really worked for me. And once I did that and I embraced these pillars, the floodgate opened to so many opportunities and success. Yes, a nonprofit was sparked, invited to write pieces for the ADA News, to give a course on unconscious bias. I wrote the book on cavity free kids, being noticed as a rising influencer, and sharing my voice about when I was submitted an article at Thrive Global. This was a global newsletter that went out after the murder of George Floyd. And I really spoke from the heart against racism. And I would not have been able to do that without gaining that confidence and self-trust and work. So yes, I have to, if I think I should have some mentees here. If you're a mentorships in dentistry mentee, please put your name in the chat so I can say hi. From using my voice, my authentic voice, that was the one spark that created this movement, this mentorship movement in dentistry. And it came 2 decades after I came out of dental school and I was in practice, when I founded Diversity in Dentistry Mentorships, which is now Mentorships in Dentistry. And I just, while I had everyone here, just want to share just some wonderful pictures. And I have some of I can't see everyone's name, but I have a couple of our members of the advisory council here: Krista Coombs and Dr. Hayes, Darwin Hayes. All of the colleagues, also many of you who are here, who've supported not only in the growth financially, but just serving as mentors or making connections with sponsors. So this is what we're doing in strengthening the future workforce of dentistry by opening the doors, breaking down the barriers to students who lack access to mentors, so that we can tell them what a great career dentistry is and how we can get them through on their journey. So if you want to learn more about that, I would be happy to share. So friends, this is really what real leadership feels like. It feels natural to have boundaries. You feel balanced with the empathy. You're not giving too much of yourself with that empathy. Authenticity feels safe. Your legacy feels achievable, and you don't have to be burned out to achieve it. And joy and balance returns. That is when you're leading from the heart of who you are and inspiring others to do the same. That's joy and that's legacy. So the real transformation is not just for you. Your family will be transformed, your team, your patient care, and your community. So just know that your leadership matters, and your energy matters, and your legacy matters. And I'm just so grateful that you took time to be here. I would just love helping you, support you on your leadership journey. For those of you that are here for the CE, make sure that I have a couple other minutes that I want to share one other thing, but I want to leave this slide up really quick. If you want to take a quick screenshot or photo, these are the books that really helped me. Essentialism, the disciplined pursuit of less, The High Functioning, Overcoming Your Hidden Depression and Reclaim Your Joy, and Set Boundaries, Find Peace. Those were the books that really helped me on this journey. Now, if you felt that you resonated with this at all, I want you to know that you don't have to do it alone. And the real leadership is not just a framework that I'm teaching, but it's a community that I'm building. And this transformation happens when you have the support, you have the structure, you have the accountability of others, like-minded, all there rooting you on, and a culture of belonging. And that is what I'm striving to create. And I want to introduce this, my 6-month coaching program called the R.E.A.L Leadership Coaching Program. And really, if you resonated with any of those problems, we got solutions. And just imagine just if what you got anything from tonight, just what deep work over 6 months could do. We will have group coaching. It's a cohort, so I'll be opening the cohort for the next doors soon. And we'll do reflective work. I'll also have some one-on-one time with you to find out what your goals are in building your legacy, or where maybe you're feeling stuck in leading in your practice or managing your team. I've been in practice for 25 years now, and I've learned a few things. And like all mentors, what we mentors can do is give you the shortcut, not to go down all the curves and past that failures to help you get to your destination faster. We'll use, of course, some NLP strategies. That was just one example of many that has helped me, and I will be able to give you my real world experience for you to apply. So I want you to know that if you want to learn more about this, we could have a conversation. Just know no pressure at all, but I'm inviting you to schedule a time to speak with me. You can scan the QR code to book a time, or you can go to calendly.com/Dr. Laila Hishaw. And I would be excited to help you take the next step toward aligned, sustainable leadership. And you can explore if this real leadership is the right fit for you. No pressure, just possibility, because there's so much we can achieve when we lead real.